Hi, this is Park Sam. Welcome to this live webinar. I am late. I've got this office clock that is terminally late, and I'm watching that and watching that to get myself started on time. I think I'm started on time, but clearly, as we know, it was 8 minutes late. What can you do? We're running a Twitter space at the moment as well. So if you can't join us online live, obviously you can rewatch by subscribing to YouTube channel below. But if you can't join us live, you can always join us and listen on Twitter to the Twitter space. And thank you for that. If you've got any questions, you can leave them in the live chat, and we'll try and answer those for you. I'm a bit short on production assistants today, God bless them. But it's a mountain that we'll climb today, and we'll deal with it ourselves. What we're looking at here is a slightly different topic, because ProAct deal with expats living and working abroad, which is a wonderful thing. It can be expats that are living in the UK or outside the UK in the EU. We've done a great residency series over the last 3 months looking at that in more detail. But what we wanted to do is as the start of the spring comes, with the correct start of a new tax year, then we'll start discussing those issues here while wrapping up on our residents. So subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see more about the residency issues for expats living and working abroad at YouTube Living and Working Abroad, or you can also subscribe and follow, watch later, leave your comments, and we will get back to you. Okay, so today what we're looking at is the upcoming changes to pensions. Now, everybody's got a state pension. Post Brexit, things change quite radically, because the UK is no longer fully aligned to the EU social insurance and healthcare agreements. We've seen some movement recently with updating of the Northern Ireland Protocol, but essentially the UK is a third country to the EU, and this affects residents, but doesn't affect your right to visa-free travel. And on a slightly different basis, country by country, the pension rights change as well. So as an independent country, you could have a right to a UK state pension. However, you have to contribute into the system and to get a benefit. Now, some of these rules apply to different countries around the world, and we will have a look at next time at how pension benefits through social insurance contributions can be paid for expats living and working abroad. But if you are a tax resident and working in a country with a social insurance system, then you've got that obligation to pay into that. And that does include America, Canada, Australia, and in Europe. Other countries may not have the equivalent of a social insurance system, but they may not let you be a tax resident. If you're a nomad moving between countries without being properly settled in one, then your tax resident is where you do the work and where you potentially have a liability to social insurance or not. So we're looking at pensions today, and state pensions specifically. So looking at the UK, so if an expat goes to the UK and they contribute for 10 years or more into the UK NHS system, then you potentially have a UK state pension benefit. But if you're a UK citizen, you also have to contribute into the system. You don't automatically get that state pension. So it is linked to national insurance tax or national insurance contributions, depending on how you see them. So that's something that needs to be done. And it's changed a number of times over the last 20 years. With different chancellors, different governments raiding the piggy bank, using the pot of money to fund that. But at the moment, and for the last few years, the politicians have made the UK state pension a very attractive proposition. because it is ring fenced and it's indexed in line with inflation or prices, whichever's higher. So it's been a very, very good um, uh, inflation proofed source of some income over the last 20 years. It's in fact going to be over £10,000 a year for full pension from April 23. So it's a significant income, whether you stop work or whether you carry on work. It's a supplement to your income when you're living and working abroad. So let's look at some of the different mechanisms. Okay, so in the UK, to get a full UK pension, you have to contribute for 35 years. You need to pay attention to times that you're unemployed, self-employed, married, widowed, or in the dark past, 60s, 70s, 80s, you might have been paying a reduced rate because you were a stay-at-home mum, and you may not have got the full credit. You might have worked part of a year, not registered for unemployment benefit, and therefore not had the national insurance credit. So it's well worth looking out for that. What you need is 35 years contribution to be able to get the full UK state pension. So you get that by doing a pension check with the UK pension authorities. You can do that online, you can do it by phone, or you can do it by post. For expats living and working abroad, post is a slow but effective route, and it can allow you still to get a claim on what that pension may be. There's a number of different rates at which you can pay. So if you're an employee in the UK, you're also a resident in the UK, and you're paying national insurance. That's at the class 1 rate. Putting that to one side, there's 3 other rates of national insurance. Class 2 is for self-employed people. It's a flat rate that you pay, £163 a year at the moment. Class 3 is a voluntary contribution, the one that you would pay if you want to catch up. That's £824 a year. And then there's class 4 as well. So if you're self-employed working in the UK, there's an additional tax to pay on your income for class 4. So there's something to bear in mind as well. So we're really mainly focusing on expats here, but the principles are right, whether you're a UK resident or expat. So keep listening and subscribe if you're a UK tax resident, and see what you get out of this, because there's a one-off opportunity coming up for all UK state pension eligible people to get ensure that they get the full state pension in the coming 2 months. Let's take a look now at how expats can contribute into that system. If you are a new expat coming to the UK, then before you can start work, you have to register for a national insurance number. Once you've got that, you can start contributing into the system. That's your registration date. Now, that is the time that your 35 years start counting from. So every year that you're working, every full year that you're working, then you're going to get a credit towards a UK state pension. If you've got a minimum of 10, then that can give you a UK state pension. If you go home, then in many instances that UK state pension credit can either be credited to your home country pension, or if not, it can still give you a small state pension from the UK as well as from your home country. For more information and guidance on getting state pension in different jurisdictions, contact us at proactpartnership.com. So what we'd like to do then is look at to the next level and say to you, what about expats that leave the UK? So when you join, you register for national insurance, 10 years, you start qualifying, 35 years, you get the full pension. If you leave the UK, Now, you may already have your 35 years by the time you leave. So if you start work at 16, um, then by the time you're 61, you could have your 35 years already. Um, I should have not said that. By the time you're 51, you have your 35 years anyway. If you're um, uh, it, it, but if you haven't got that full working history, if you're an expat that's worked offshore, worked abroad, worked in different countries around the world, you could have a very patchy history. You may have periods when you've not been contributing where you've worked and you've not contributed in the UK. So what's your situation then? How can you make sure that you get a full state pension? Well, the first thing you need to do is get a pension check and find out exactly how many years credit that you've got in the bank already. This is an important thing that you can do, but you have to go along and register. If you need any help and guidance with that, our online product, uh, client service team can help you get your illustration and find out how many years to do that. Uh, with the end of the tax year coming up, if you wanted to take quick action on retrospectively, then obviously you may need to speed that process up and not be waiting around for postal deliveries. So if you've got a patchy history, you may well not have 35 years working in the UK because you've been working abroad in different places and different times. Therefore, you've got the opportunity to make that up. So how can you make up your contribution years for living and working abroad, or all those missing years? There's two ways, essentially. Um, One way is using the voluntary contribution rate, which is class three. This is £824 a year at the moment. Now, normally you can go back 7 years. You can go back the current year and 6 years. So you can pay that for 6 years, and it gives you an extra year. Now, why would you do that? Well, you would do that because the 825 that you pay per year, you will get back in guaranteed pension within 3 years. Even if you're not getting a full pension, it's still going to increase. That £825 that you pay in backdated contributions for national insurance will give you an additional £275 a year pension, which is index linked and payable for the rest of your life. If you survive 3 years, you get your money back. If you survive 6 years, you double your money. There isn't a savings plan like that in the world at the moment to get that sort of return on your investment. If you survive, you put the money in the bank, you can get some pretty good rates relative to 2 or 3 years ago at the moment. But still, this is guaranteed income as long as you survive to retirement age and you keep living, etc., etc. Because the state pension will die with you and not come back. So that's class three. That voluntary contribution is open to everybody. Now, if you are working and you can prove that you're working in the UK, you could backdate it with your class two, which you should have been paying anyway, but you could potentially backdate that. But if you're going abroad to work and you've been contributing into the UK, now this you can continue to pay class two and potentially class four. But if you're going to work abroad and you're not earning income in the UK, you're just paying class two, and it does give you your state pension credit, and that rate is £163 a year. But to pay class two when you're living and working abroad, you have to start paying it as soon as you leave the UK within 3 years. So if you're a new expat, a new UK expat leaving the UK, you should consider contributing into class two to give you your pension contributions and maintain those up to date. For more information and guidance on that, contact us for a free review at productpartnership.com. If you've been abroad for more than 3 years, you can't do that. That door is already closed with changes that have happened in the past. But what we do understand is that if you're paying that 163, you still get the same effective state pension benefit. The state pension benefit started many years ago, and it started to be changed many years ago, and it's still undergoing more change now. And this is what's coming up in April now. So for 163 pounds a year, you can get an extra 275 um, a year pension to backdate your contributions while you're contract working abroad. So let's have a look at what the opportunity is coming up for April 23. The changes on pensions over the last few years have been quite radical, and more are being threatened in terms of state pension. So at the moment, it's an index linked pension, but the changes in contribution rates have been made, and a window closes in April 22. If you have got, um, if you, in the normal course of events, you can pay catch up for the last 6 years. So any expat today can catch up for the previous 6 years, going back to 2016. You can actually go back 7 years because you can pay back the last year. And once you've paid back last year, you can go back 3 years. So if you're a newly expat abroad and you're 2 years abroad, you could still register now. You can backdate 1 year and then go back potentially another 6 years if you miss those years and those contribution years. But big thing that's changing is at the moment there's an option to go back to 2006-7 to update your state pension. That's an extra 10 years. So at the moment, 17 years can be added to your UK state pension, which is not enforced necessarily to be tied in with any other pension scheme provider, any other state pension scheme provider. So if you plans to relocate to the UK or you want to secure that UK state pension because you haven't got an alternative, um, you need to consider, first of all, have you got a full contribution history, or will you get a full contribution history by the time you reach UK state retirement age? That's 35 years. If you're missing years, do you want to backdate and update those now? You may not have enough time to make the 35 years by contributing in the years ahead. So in which case you need to consider what you can do to catch up. And at the moment, you've got a big opportunity to update by 17 years rather than 10. So is that an opportunity for you? As an investment, it's a good investment. Remember what we said, 824 years as a voluntary contribution, you get that money back in 3 years. And although you're going to lose this opportunity on 10 years worth of backdating now, you're still going to have the 7 years as well. So you've still got that 7 years to catch up. So for £8,250 today, you can guarantee you an extra 2,750 pension when you retire from the UK, which is index linked to prices. So it's potentially quite a good investment if you have that gap. If you have that gap, now you may or you may not have that gap. That's to be seen. And I say we offer a free review for that if you wish. New expats have got that opportunity. So if you're expat less than 3 years, you've got the opportunity to do that. And what I mean by that is that you've got to have been in the UK for more than 3 years in the last 3 years. So a UK expat who's come and gone, but has had a 3 year spell in the UK within the last 3 years could still use the Class 2 system to contribute. Otherwise, it's voluntary contributions. Non-UK expats who've got some contribution history in the UK could potentially contribute into this to enhance their benefits as well while abroad. So the option is 10 years. The opportunity is gone after April the 5th this year. that will still leave you the option to make 7 years. But any new expat relocating overseas should make that contribution, and start paying a class two to give themselves that safety net back in the UK when they come to their UK state retirement age. So let's wrap up what we said today. There's a big window of opportunity at the moment for uh, expats or anybody with a working history in the UK to top up their pension by up to 17 years, to make up for missing years' contributions. You need to pay 35 years to get the full UK state pension of £185 a week, um, which you can get by uh, by making the national insurance contributions. If you pay 1 year of £824, you will get an extra £275 pension index linked for the rest of your life. You can't beat that, so it's a good investment. But if you plan ahead over the long term while you're working abroad and maintain a class two contribution record, then that gives you additional opportunities while living and working abroad. New expats into the UK or out of the UK need to register, need to get that contribution update. New expats leaving the UK need to get themselves secured with a class two contribution while they're living and working abroad so they don't miss years and contribute in the future. For more information and guidance, contact us at proactpartnership.com. As we said, we do work on a Twitter space as well at the moment, so you can watch us there at Pro Exam Says, or this Living and Working Abroad channel on YouTube. Thanks a lot for listening. If you want any help from us, we can help you as advisors, but obviously you can get help directly from the government websites. But if you need help and guidance, we're here to assist expats living and working abroad in the UK, the EU, and around the world. Thanks a lot for listening. We'll see you next time.